Genesis 1. We all think we know the story, right? God creates this perfect world, a totally finished paradise. But what if that's not quite the full picture? What if creation wasn't a static paradise to just live in, but actually a dynamic project to be built, and humanity was hired as the construction crew?
I mean, think about it. When you hear Garden of Eden, what pops into your head? For most of us, it's that classic picture book world, totally serene, peaceful, maybe even a little static. Lions are just chilling with the lambs, not a single cloud in the sky.
And look, to be fair, that peaceful image comes straight out of the text. Genesis 1, verse 30 seems to spell it out pretty clearly. God gives every green plant for food. That really points to this idea of universal herbivory. Nothing is hunting anything else. It's the ultimate vision of peace.
But what if that peaceful, serene image is only half the story? What if the text itself has a twist built into it, clues that point to a much more dynamic and, frankly, much more challenging reality? Okay, let's dig in and find them.
So, our very first clue shows up just 2 verses before that green plant verse. It's in the job description that God gives to humanity. And the specific words used here are, well, they're kind of surprising. They really don't sound like instructions for just relaxing in a finished paradise.
Okay, the first word is kabash. Now, this is not a gentle, passive term. In Hebrew, it's a powerful, forceful word. It's used for taming wild land, or even for conquering an enemy in battle. It implies there's something out there that's resisting order, something that actually needs to be brought under control.
And the second word is rada. Again, this isn't about just passively caretaking. It means to rule in the way a king rules, actively governing a kingdom and expanding order throughout it. Think of it as project management, not just, park maintenance.
So this is the puzzle, isn't it? If the world was already this perfect, finished, peaceful paradise, why on earth would it need to be subdued and ruled? These really strong, active commands just don't seem to fit the peaceful setting we all imagine.
Now, to solve this puzzle, we have to zoom out from Genesis 1. We need to see what the rest of the biblical authors have to say about creation. And when we do that, believe me, the picture gets a whole lot wilder.
And this is where the tension just becomes undeniable. You have Genesis 1 giving us this ideal of peaceful herbivores, but then you flip over to Psalm 104 and it says the young lions roar for their prey, and they're seeking their food from God. The psalm doesn't see this as a problem or a result of the fall. It's presented as part of God's good, ongoing provision for his creatures.
And this whole theme of a good but wild world is everywhere you look. Those great sea creatures in Genesis, often thought of as chaos monsters, are created by God and called good. The fearsome Leviathan, it isn't portrayed as some evil enemy to be slain. Psalm 104 describes it as a creature playing in the sea. And then the book of Job just drives the point home. Much of creation is intentionally, wonderfully outside of human control.
Okay, so how do we possibly put all this together? Well, scholars have a few main ways of thinking about it. The first view is that, there was an original, peaceful world, but it was lost after the fall. The second is that Genesis 1 was never really about animal biology in the first place, but was about humanity's special job, and that predation was always part of the deal. But there's a third view that offers a really fascinating synthesis. What if the Peace of Eden was real, but it was a sacred center located inside a much larger, wilder world?
Let's really dive into that third option, because it provides a powerful way to make sense of everything we've seen so far. This idea completely reframes not just the Garden of Eden, but our entire purpose within it. Okay, this is the real game changer. Eden was never meant to be the entire world. It was a sanctuary. Think of it like the Holy of Holies in a cosmic temple, the one spot where heaven and earth overlapped perfectly. It wasn't the finished product, it was the starting point, the home base.
And this totally transforms the human mission. See, the job wasn't just to tend the garden. As priest kings, Adam and Eve were meant to expand the garden, to take the order, the peace, the sacredness of that sanctuary and push it outwards. And suddenly, those commands to subdue and rule make perfect sense. It's a call to transform the wild but good world into a place that's filled with the peace and order of Eden.
And this idea, this expanding sanctuary, isn't just a clever way to read Genesis 1. It's actually a blueprint, a pattern that you can see unfolding across the entire biblical story. It reveals God's ultimate goal for all of creation.
You can literally trace this grand story from start to finish. It begins in Genesis with the blueprint for this cosmic temple. The story then moves into the messy process of history, which you see in books like Psalms and Job, where the world is clearly still wild. Then, it all pivots towards its fulfillment in Christ, the true human who finally gets the mission right, and it all points to the end goal, the consummation in Revelation, a time when the mission is finally complete and the entire cosmos becomes the sacred temple of God.
The New Testament picks up this exact theme. The author of Hebrews looks at the world and basically says, yeah, we don't yet see everything ordered and subdued like it's supposed to be. It's an unfinished project. But he says, we see Jesus, the one who perfectly fulfilled that original human calling and is now pioneering the work of new creation.
So this leaves us with a pretty powerful shift in perspective. Maybe Genesis 1 isn't a story about some lost paradise that we're supposed to be sad about and long to return to. Maybe it's an invitation to a mission that's still underway, a purpose that was never about passively enjoying a finished world, but about actively co-creating a new one. So what does it mean if our role was never to live in a finished paradise, but to help build one?